The situation is very complex for many reasons. One of them is that the regulatory framework is changing. We are facing a situation at the moment where the General Data Protection Regulation is right ahead of us. This is a new law that will be directly applicable all over in Europe, and it will most probably run into force in 2018. So what we have at the moment is a phase where this new law is approaching and where national legislators as well as players in the field need to adapt. The situation is very difficult at the moment because what we have at the moment is a complete fragmentation of the laws in Europe, and not only a fragmentation but also of the laws, but also a fragmentation of the ethical values behind the laws. And when it comes to reuse of already existing health-related data, there are a lot of ethical values at stake. One of them is, for example, that the patient is requested to be as open as possible in his relation to the doctor. At the same time, this openness does not necessarily mean that the patient also wants to share the information with any other community out there. And at the same time, the communities argue that they need access to this data. So there are ethical debates, and these ethical debates lead to very complex legal outcomes, so that the situation is fragmented. And in my view, this is one of the reasons why such an institute is so important, because what we need in Europe is a better understanding of not only the fragmentation, but also of the reasons behind these fragmentations. One of the important things at the moment is that due to the regulation, standardization processes become more important than they are at the moment. Good practices and examples for good practices become more important than at the moment. Cooperation with data protection authorities will become more important than at the moment. And IHD as an institute stratifying the different input from different stakeholders will certainly be a very important and very useful tool to help the communities and the stakeholders to find good practices and to identify good and useful organizational and technical measures in the arena. I very much appreciate being part of this exercise. It's really challenging, but I think it's very, very useful and important.